In this video presentation, we are going to present the fundamental features of three flavors or subtypes of a particular carousel. And the subject is face and facies because it's so central to the clinical ability to recognize particular disorders. So let's click on the first image. They're all clickable in order to be able to read better what is the intent of the presentation. The intent of the carousel is to stress words and images in terms of what ideas do they try to convey. It is an effortless method to memorize terminology, nomenclature, to memorize nuances, and to learn English variety of expressions for those who are not native English speakers. Images are international, they are not language dependent. I am speaking to you and I'm the general editor shown here, and you can get in touch with me at the following address. So we can move on to the next. Here we are going to then see what is the full carousel. May we open it? A full carousel has particular characteristics, and that is it provides links that each of you can explore differently in different varieties of combination, permutations, and detail. In this video, I'm going to present my own explorations, but you could explore your own ways if you link to a full carousel. Another alternative is you could have a quick view of any carousel, but those will not provide you with links. Next. So if we open this particular screen, we are going to then see the main features of what we are trying to convey. Face and facies. First of all, it's important to distinguish signs from signals. If we see something, if we note something, they are signs. But we need to combine see or notice with understand. And if we then see and understand, then they may be a signal. For instance, signals in the face can be who are you, the identity, or it can be reflecting particular family or ethnic characteristics. It may also reflect that you're tired, your muscular tone, or your emotional tone, you're afraid, or you're dehydrated, or you're edematous, or even that some people just don't look too bright. And we judge people's age very much by facial characteristics. In addition, the face can be symmetric or asymmetric, and different parts of the face can be distorted, that is dysmorphology. For instance, the mid-face can be underdeveloped or hypoplastic, or the philtrum, or the vermilion, or the jaw, and so forth. The clinician can suspect that a patient has asthenia, is tired and has no energy, or is sleeping, or is febrile, or it is maldeveloped in the sense that the face is dysmorphic, the morphism or morphology of the face is altered, and so forth. Let's go to the next. There are faces, if we click on this, that are virtually universally known. Here is an example. This face is worldwide known. Do you know who she is? This painter, among the top painters ever, was perfecting this image all his life. This image traveled with him, and he was working on it until his deathbed. Let's click on this. So if you are looking at a full carousel, you can click and leave the carousels toward the web, to the internet. And in this instance, this image is described as Mona Lisa. It is in France, in the Louvre Museum, and so forth. So once you explore what you want to do, or more or less, we can come back. Let's go back and see the next image. And the point of the next image is that faces, like the police knows well, it tells you the identity. Let's click on this. Most people that have some education in humanities will immediately tell you who he is. Can you tell me? No matter how many of these thousands of statues you're going to see, this type of facial characteristics is characteristic of one human being. So it's not just a sign, but it is a signal. The combination of these facial features tell me what. Let's click on this and we'll open the mystery. So Socrates, and then you can then lock in some basic concept of sign, signal, face. And we could say that because it's characteristic, it is a facies. Facies means faces characteristic of X, Y, or Z. Let's go back. And let's then look at the next. And if we click on this image, these are then facial masks. They are masking what the real face looks like. Some people use gests or gesticulations to hide what their true feelings are. They smile while they hate you, or they cry while they are indifferent. Actors use masks because masks can be exaggerated, but masquerade means false. So if you click, you could find more about masquerade and mask and so forth, because they're important in the history of human civilization. Next, back. So you could see that you can open links or not open them. Here is a image that I think many of us, click please, will agree that it represents beauty, but it also represents sadness. Why is she sad? And I'm not going to explore this any further, but I want to stress that this was a competition between world famous sculptors. This was the first prize, and the jury was composed of the most talented sculptors. What a great honor the creator of this face received. And this was hundreds of years before the birth of Christ. Let's go on. Here is a depiction of a tragic event. As he wounds this female warrior, he begins to notice while she is dying her beauty and falls in love. We tend to link to develop attachments, very much so based on faces. I'm not going to explore this lifelong life of regrets, this tragedy that has been described by classic poets and authors and has become immortal. Let's go to the next. Here is a Roman emperor. Does he look happy? Does he look connected? Is he tired, worried? Who is he? Well, click and you will find out, but I'm not going to tell you. So the next picture is a detail, and we see that the eyelids are sort of droopy. Can this be a sign of tiredness, or maybe even a metabolic disorder like myasthenia, myasthenia gravis, etc.? Facies are very, very useful to suspect clinical diagnosis. Next image. Here we have a face with unusual proportions. Certainly the nose is prominent, The midface is not. The malar bone is not. The jaw is not. And the lip hangs because the mandible is overgrown comparing to the midface, and the nose is overgrown comparing to the rest of the facial area. This is a characteristic facies of a family. It's characteristic of a single gene dominant mutation that affects a particular family. And as written here, it is the members of the Habsburg royal house that could be recognized regardless if they lived in Italy, Spain, Brussels, or elsewhere. So it is virtually diagnostic. Next image, please. And I think if you look at these faces, you can say they're not European. Would you explain that to anyone in words? What is it in these faces that you consider not European? And one of them has an ethnic malformation. That particular malformation in the European population would be a very serious medical matter, but not so much in the Malaysia, which these individuals are from. What does it show? It's a frontal encephalocele. So again, you see a connection of medicine, face, facies. Next image, please. So face, facies, and now we can say stigmatic, meaning they're specific enough to suspect a diagnosis. Can you suspect a diagnosis here? You could tell the parents of such children that it would be extraordinarily rare and very unlikely that they would achieve full mental development. That's the power of observation. But let me add, this painting depicts perfectly two unrelated individuals with the same medical condition, a trisomy 21. The artist recognized that, but physicians did not. And for hundreds of years, before, during, and after the life of this painting, they still didn't. It took another 200 years before somebody described these facies as associated with a specific human disorder. What does that say? That say that the clinicians are not very well trained. They do not have very open eyes. They need to be trained just like the artist to notice what they are looking at, what they see, and what it means. Next, please. So we arrive at a clinician taking the pulse, finding that the pulse is weak, looking at a patient, noticing she is flushing, her eyes have too many tears, she looks febrile, but he also noticed an association that the joints of her hands are swollen. So here we have a full syndrome, a face, a facies, and a syndrome, signs and signals running concurrently, a weak pulse, which means the disorder is affecting her myocardium and so forth, rheumatic fever, febrile facies. Let's go on. So when we look at clusters of words, they tend to eliminate each other. The more you understand one, the more you will understand the next. And if we click on this, we're going to see a motion, and you could then learn about each of these words, like facetious. What does it mean? It will make you understand face better. A face is a facade, but it's also a factor. It is a physiognomy, meaning it gives you knowledge, physiognomos. Gesticulations are important, but they may or may not reflect true sentiments and so forth. And you can click on more and explore that if so you wish. I don't, so let's go back. And so to repeat, what did we do here? What ideas we touched upon? Well, we illuminated ideas in images and words like what? Amazon, Down syndrome, encephalocele, ethnicity, face, facies, mask, ptosis, syndrome. I think that's a lot for a short exploration of this kind. Next. So what's next? Let's click. Next then is you can explore your way. You, by going to a full version, can explore the links that these images lead to. There are very, very many, and each of you will end up exploring this particular subject in your own personal ways. And until then, accept my best wishes and thank you for your attention.